networking, referrals, strategies for success, and real-life stories from professionals who are building a business based on relationship marketing. Welcome to the Caerusnet Podcast. Here, you'll learn how to stay connected in the local business community and become that person others get to know, like, and trust, and refer to. And now, your host, Caerusnet founder, Steven Zyskowski.
Well, I wanna tell you all the places we can go.
Welcome to the Caerusnet Podcast. This is our kickoff episode for 2024. And what a great way to kick off our podcast season, other than with a 2023 Caerusnet MVP winner, Trae Bohlen from the Brighton Wednesday 8 o'clock group. Trae, is that news to you?
Yes, that's brand new news, but it was one of my secret goals for 2023.
Awesome. Well, secret goal accomplished, but we've got to keep it a secret. You've got to really pretend next week at the next Brighton meeting that it's a big surprise. But I wanted to let you know today, while we record this podcast, that your efforts are really recognized by people, your positivity. Being an entrepreneur, it's not always easy to maintain that positivity all the time because we don't always get the answers we want. People don't always follow up with us the ways we're hoping, and there's this constant kind of having to get up and brush things off our shoulders to defend ourselves, to stay true to who we want to be. So anyways, Trae Bohlen, she's a photographer and she's a branding expert. Trae, let's talk really quickly. First, thanks for all you do for the Brighton Caerusnet team. Congratulations on your MVP performance. Let's rewind a little bit. In history. Who told you about Caerusnet? How did that go down?
Yeah, so my friend Hope had connected with me. We have been longtime friends. I actually met her on care.com, which is a big part of who I am, is maintaining relationships. And I met her 15 years ago, babysitting her sons. And we've maintained this great relationship. And she said, hey, I know that you love networking and you're looking for, another great way to connect with people. You've got to check out Caerusnet. And I was like, okay. But I was a little bit skeptical because I've been a part of other networking groups. I had visited a lot of BNIs actually during the pandemic. And I just, sometimes it was just like very cliquey or hard to kind of get in, or maybe there wasn't like a structure or outline, or it was just friendly, but not actually business focused, or maybe it was just a group of people that were getting together, but just had no purpose. And I just found how Caerusnet was like totally the opposite. It was exactly what I was looking for. And I remember after the second or third time I visited, I was just like, oh my goodness, I've found my people. They're passionate. They're excited about what they do. They want to connect. They want to share who they are so that we can get to know them on a deeper level. And it takes networking to like this relationship level.
Yeah, well, that's an awesome share. And thank you, Hope Karen. She's from Determined Realty, Keller Williams in Ann Arbor. Really has just been an outstanding member of the team that she's on too. And I just, when you get a group of people together that are looking out for each other, that are willing to go to bat for each other, do a little extra than other people are going to do, like you said, you find your tribe. And the cool thing about Caerusnet too is that, you're on the Brighton Wednesday 8 o'clock group. Logistically, that works really good for you.
Right.
Part of regularly. And yet the cool thing about Caerusnet, especially in the more unique categories, it's really a great network to be able to spread your wings and meet people on other Caerusnet teams as well too. So, and that always kind of keeps things, I think, a little bit fresh as well, because you never know who you're going to meet on other teams. Plus, you just did this ugly sweater holiday get together, jingle mingle, right over at the Folding Warehouse in Ypsilanti. And so, I mean, you've really just done a great job, spreading your wings and doing all that. But let's talk about another quick thing as well too, before we start diving into your experience in Caerusnet and really understanding what branding is. let's drill down just a little bit into the other networking stuff. So, to me, I'm grateful for all of the opportunities that people have to network. I don't care if it's a chamber referral group. I don't care if it's BNI or if it's Bossy Ladies, whatever it might be. I like having people get exposed to different things because there
Yeah.
can always be a diamond that comes out of them, right? But the focus is different here. So let's talk about when you first came and visited Caerusnet and first were told about it. I think you and I were probably in touch for a couple months or
We
so
were.
before you joined. And you had some, I don't want to say baggage, but you had some
Experiences.
yeah, some heavy experiences that kind of stuck with you in an unfavorable way.
Yes,
And,
yes.
and maybe that's what kept you from diving in as quickly
Mm-hmm.
to Caerusnet. But the other thing that's neat about Caerusnet, we're not a religious organization, but there's a lot of people that are in Caerusnet that are very spiritual, and I think that's awesome. When you and I were talking, you said, Steve, I'm going to pray on it. I'm going to
Yeah.
pray on it. And
Yep.
I always love it when people pray on it because typically the good stuff emerges. So what kind
Yeah.
of answers did you get back when you were praying? How did that go?
That's a really great question. I think when I said I want to pray on it, I meant I really wanted to not like look in the Bible for the
Oh
answer
no.
because the Caerusnet wasn't going to be in the Bible. And I wasn't going to audibly hear from God's Caerusnet.
Right. No.
But I do think that it was a time of reflection, of praying, of asking God, is this the direction that I should pursue? And then waiting and thinking through it with everything that I know about the Bible, with the relationship that I have with God, to see if this would be something that would further what I wanted to do, further what I feel like my life's calling is, or if it would be a distraction or something that would be a discouragement, or maybe something that wasn't going to actually accomplish the goals that I had in mind. And so he didn't give me an audible, thumbs up or a voice from God, but I just got this sense of like, I'm going to visit and I'm going to see who these people really are. And through that, being able to come out going, yes, this is definitely something that the Lord would want me to be a part of, not because, right, it's in the Bible or because I heard an audible, but because there was this just a gentle nudging, like, yeah, this is something that will be worth your time. And I want to say that because there are so many things that we could do to network, to connect, to make referrals, whatever. And I'm a busy mom. I'm homeschooling. I run other businesses. I have a lot on my plate. I volunteer. I love to give to charity. And I wanted to make sure that this hour that I was giving would be valuable. And it has been so valuable, not just in furthering my business, but in helping educate myself too, right? In personal growth, in business growth, and then in relationship growth too. It's been just amazing.
Yeah, it's really interesting because over this year in 2024 will be my 16th year doing Caerusnet. And one of the caveats that's always been present with me somehow or another, whatever I need personally, whether it's a personal product or a service, or if it's a business product or service to improve myself, the answers have always been right there. Like the people are like right there. If you really want to be growing to the next level with your business, you're the only one that's going to be holding yourself back, is what it boils down to.
It's so true. It's so true. We're either going forward, we're growing, or we're dying. I mean, there's only two ways. There
Yeah,
really is.
absolutely. So when you came into the group, your initial focus was newborn and portrait photography.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But the interesting thing too, knowing enough about you to be mildly deadly, you're also a consummate entrepreneur, come from a family of entrepreneurs.
Mm-hmm.
You're a very curious person, and
Mm-hmm.
maybe sometimes you feel you might even need to dial back all that curiosity because you're so curious. But you found, I think, also another opportunity to really be helpful. and to really provide value. So let's talk about that transition into really kind of becoming a branding expert. That's really what you're in the business teams really promoting. And so, where did you see that as being a real logical transition for you? Did somebody recommend it to you? Were you thinking of it already? Let's break that down.
Yeah, that's a really great question. And branding was a part of my journey. You know, I actually launched my first business 12 years ago, and it was a real emerging industry, and I was able to just make the most of that industry and turned my business into a six-figure business. I tried another business that I was curious about and ended up doing the same thing, turning that into a six-figure business, and always like pivoting. But the interesting thing was, Steve, that who I was stayed the same, and people followed me from thing to thing, not because of the thing, but because of my personal brand. And I saw so much weight to that. And that was really intriguing to me. Actually, pre-pandemic, I took a course in personal brand photography. I was really interested in it, thought it was a great plan, a great idea, and was going to launch that. But we had a global pandemic, and I had a newborn son, and I actually had a business person I was working with borrow my idea, which I now think is amazing because I had this great idea and she took it and is now doing brand photography in another area. But it really allowed me to kind of sit and go, okay, do I want to do this model, or is there something better? And being a part of Caerusnet helped me to really think through, is there something better? And there was. And who I am is a big part of that. And I love that Caerusnet helps us to be more of who we were created to be. And that's when I started thinking, like, wow, this is my superpower. I love to see who God created people to be and help them translate that into a photo, into video, into content. I love to help them think deeply about their personal brand and then express that. So that's where I think about branding in a different way. You know, I'm not saying let's come up with all these pain points for this imaginary avatar that we will then hit hard. I don't like that. That feels yucky to me. And it's fine if that's how you want to do it. That's awesome. If it's working, keep doing it. But I like to think about who was I made to be and how can I share that with the world so that it will attract people to me? Because I feel like there's heart connections that happen. And when a heart connection happens, it is way deeper than any pain point will ever be.
Yeah, agreed. And I've seen obviously your work being in Caerusnet. The most recent work that I've seen, I believe, might have been when Tom was the 10-minute presenter, Tom Hamp, our business coach.
Yeah.
You did an exceptional job really capturing the best of Tom Hamp.
Thank you.
He looked like a movie star. I mean, seriously, it just really looked like an approachable authority on his topic and somebody that's really willing to give himself. And you really hit it out of the park. And Tom, being in business coaching, I'm sure he identified I'm missing a little bit in the branding. So how did that conversation go down with Tom? Sorry, Tom, we're telling on you.
That was actually a really great conversation. I had gotten to know Tom, and that's the other thing that I like about Caerusnet is we get to know each other, and it's not constant sales pitches that we're giving each other. We're just getting to know each other, our services, what we do. And the more I got to know Tom, the more the trust was built up. And he was like, well, I haven't had a photo of myself in 10 years. I kind of look different. I was like, well, yeah, you do a little bit, Tom. I'm not trying to yank people over into forcing them to think they need to hire me. But we started talking about what it could look like to work together, what he was working on. Well, he wants to build a course. And right away, I was like, Tom, in order to stand out as a coach, you need to be you. You need to not have stock photos. We need to create your own stock photos. We need to show the heart of Tom and who Tom is. And that's when I realized the way that I had been looking at branding, it wasn't wrong, but I can do more. So I like this element of coaching, of getting to know people, of getting to know my client, of having a long-term relationship with them. I don't want to be a wham bam, thank you, ma'am, take your pictures, see you never. I want to know who you deeply are, who God made you to be, so that I can help guide you into being able to take that picture. You have to be vulnerable. I have to help you get your guard down to really show and reflect who you are on the inside. And that's what Tom and I were able to do together, was to deeply know each other. And I will tell you, when I do my sessions, I say, we need to have a chunk of time together. And because the first hour of me and Tom doing photos, that sounds like a lot, but we were traveling to different locations. That first hour, we were still kind of getting to know each other. But by the second, because we also did film, we filmed a spot for him. So by the time we got to that second hour, it was like, yeah, okay, we're going. We're a well-oiled machine. And the content that you see is from what happened after the guards were down. But that takes a little bit of time, and I'm willing to do that. I want to do that because that's really you.
Absolutely. So let's talk about like who is a business that should be branding, and what businesses might it not be as important for, and also what would be somebody who's starting to do maybe some entry level branding. What would be like a client
Yes.
could work with and say, okay, you're a newer business, I understand
Yes.
that your budget might be more limited, but
Yep.
let's give you at least some level one branding. What would that
Yes.
look like, as opposed to a business that goes, hey, I'm way past level one branding now. I've been doing branding, but now I need to either rebrand or enhance brand and really get to that next level?
That's a really great question. I'm really excited that you asked it, because in 2024, I'm launching a totally different program for the level one branding. And I recently helped a client. She said, hey, I already kind of have a brand established, and I'm really interested and curious to know if you have like a DIY. And I was like, oh, actually, yes, this is what I'm working on building. So I offer coaching myself, as the photographer and the brand expert, and then my copywriter. So together we do a power hour, 2 power hours with you, where we talk about your brand, help you to understand the foundation, help you to understand you so that you can express that. And then we ask you to come to the second session with questions about the content that you're wanting to create, with questions for us, so that we can give you these informed answers, not just off the cuff, whatever I think today, but so that we can pour some heart and soul into the responses. And then we will be launching a group where we'll have a Facebook group, and we'll be able to interact, help provide with a more of a group setting, so that everyone can have access to branding at that beginner stage level.
That's great. So, again, we've got advertising, marketing, and branding.
Yes.
And there are three things that need to kind of work together, but they're
Yes.
three very individual things. So what is the primary benefit then? We know that a benefit to advertising may be that somebody responds to the ad and becomes a buyer. We know that the potential benefit to marketing is to create ourselves as a resource. So should somebody ever be in the need for something, they're like, hey, I know this company. Where does the branding then fit into that?
That I'm so glad that you asked that, because many people kind of get stuck in the thought that your brand is your logo and your color palette. That is part of it. But your brand is who you are in your heart. So what I like to help people understand is you cannot market what isn't branded. You can't market the unknown. You can't advertise until you know who you are. And my philosophy is a little bit different, where I'm saying, let's work on your brand and sharing that with the world, instead of focusing on creating the right ad. So all the content that I'm creating with my team, it can be used in marketing, and it can be used as an ad, but it's going to have that kind of heart tug connection point instead of a pain point, and instead of thinking about this imaginary person. You're going to draw people in because of who you are. And that's what I'm helping people do.
Okay, wonderful. And of course, your contact information is going to be in the podcast notes. So anybody that would like to connect with Trae, she's a real gem. You'll have a great conversation and see how you can be helped. And I know you love doing trust builders, like you said, just learning about other businesses as well too. Let's as we're kind of getting near the end of the podcast here. There's two questions that I've got left. So the first question, we'll ask them one at a time, pertains to your own Caerusnet experience. Can you describe what you would consider to be a success story where either you've been able to be a really good referral partner to another person on a team, or somebody that's been able to refer somebody to you that was the ideal client? So, this is an open opportunity here to just kind of share whatever kind of rises to the top for you in terms of a Caerusnet success story.
I think you're not going to be surprised by the story that I share. I love to connect people. And I have a real passion for that. But here's the thing. I love to use other Caerusnet team services. And this is probably one of my favorite things to do, because here I have people that I'm learning to know, like, and trust. And why would I go look for a different lawyer? There's one in the team. Why would I look for something outside of the team? And I do understand that maybe not everyone's a great fit. That's totally normal. Everyone's not going to be that perfect connection point. But Kim Lenga, she's a fitness expert, and she was sharing, and I was like, I am hooked on following. I just want to see what this is about. And I utilized her services. I took the DNA test. It shared with me the different things I needed to make changes in, and I did it. I saw great results. Kim's coaching is amazing. She will give it to you, and that's how I prefer to be coached. Like, do this now. I like to I like to be told what to do to get the results that I want. If I want these results, just tell me what to do and I'll do it. And because of that, I have referred almost 100 people to Kim because I'm very passionate about sharing my success story with others. And I think sometimes I've overwhelmed her at times, because it'll be a barrage of people at once. I'll go somewhere and people will be like, you look incredible. Your energy is through the roof. What are you doing? How are you 44 and doing all the things that you do? And I'm like, Kim Lenga, that's how. And then I wanted to give this tip because it's something that I've done that I think is really different. I don't give them her card. I actually say, hey, can I friend you on Facebook? Kim is always on Facebook. Let me do a connection chat where I introduce you to Kim, because I am just so passionate about you finding the answers that you are looking for. Let me just stop right now and make this connection. Because what I found was, when I did not do that, the people would just go away and lose the interest, right? So I actually charted, because I'm a dork like that. I love crunching numbers. So the first 15 people that I just gave the card to never connected with Kim. The next 55 people, of those 55 people, 28 became clients.
That's amazing.
So here's the thing, making that personal connection, taking it to the next level, that's where you got to go when it comes to referrals. Doing this intro where you say, here's this person, they're a great person, listing out why, it takes it to the next level of referral partnerships, of networking, of all of that. It's not enough to give a business card.
No way. I agree with you. The business card itself, just like most issues people have, if it's literally not draining them of all their blood, they will put things off and put things off because they haven't addressed the issue already for 2 years. A business card is not going to help them address the issue. Taking somebody by the hand and digitally walking them up to that person.
Yes.
It also demonstrates your true enthusiasm for that relationship and for wanting to see people do well. So yeah, that's really huge. And I find for myself too that I'll have members that might text me hey, Steve, you're going to get a call from so-and-so, house cleaner. Oh, okay, great. I'm looking forward to it. Doesn't happen. Uh, what does happen is when people take the time, like you said, to include me in a message string. Hey,
Yep.
this is the guy I told you about. This is the networking group I told you about. And that way I can chime in and put myself out there to set an appointment with them. And it works magic doing it that way. The differences are night and day differences. Okay, so last question for the podcast. Now that it's even coming from an MVP, I love that. And I also love that, Kim Lengo was the previous year's MVP. So it's good pedigree here. Um, let's talk about new member joins. We just had Josh, our attorney,
Hmm.
as the 10-minute presenter for our first December meeting. And Josh was saying, like how you're his new best friend, you had an awesome
Yep.
trust member with him. I think that's so great. And, to me, I always ask a member now that's been in the network for at least over a year, which is you, what would be the number one piece of advice? Like if you were to say, hey, of all the things that you need to focus on and do in your first year in membership, I would say this is probably your most important thing to do. What would that be to you?
Outside of attending every meeting and very active in the meeting, I find that gives me a lot of value. It shows that I'm not just there, but I'm paying attention and I'm encouraging people during that. So being active in the chat, being active, and not just passively listening, it would be making those connections. Um, I view everybody in Caerusnet as like my new best friend, and I want to be welcoming like that. It's been said that I have the gift of hospitality, and maybe that comes a little more natural, but you can fake it till you make it. You can make that. I'm going to put myself out there
Yeah.
and be the initiator.
Yes.
What I
Yes.
found from being the initiator is that actually breaks down barriers
Yeah.
because everybody is just as nervous as you are. Everybody just as wanting of the connection as you are. That's what we're here for. But sometimes you've got to be the first one to say, hey, I'm Trae. Can we do a Zoom? Because I have a crazy busy life and I'm sure you do too.
Yes, absolutely. It's so important to, take the initiative, to be the one that's responsible for getting through the relationships. And, you mentioned one other thing, and that's what I consider to be kind of team spirit. Each one of my teams are the same but different. We're the same in that we're a Caerusnet team. We use the same verbiage, we do the same meeting, but we're different because we have different people on each team. And I love it when I've got a few teams that there are 3 or 4 or 5 members on each team that are the chat exploders. They are acknowledging everybody, providing positive gestures, and I like doing that myself. I mean, it's just another way to show engagement and appreciation.
Mhm.
So I appreciate how much you do that. Like when we're in a meeting and I'm looking at the chat, you're like everybody chatting like crazy and
And
everybody's
I'm doing
feeling.
it on my phone. Like that's the crazy thing. Like I'm doing it on my phone.
Oh my goodness. So, okay, Trae Bohlen, boy, oh boy, what an awesome journey it's been so far. And I'm really excited about continuing this walk with you. Cirrusnet's been an incredible experience for me. I've always felt that there's been a little bit of an ebb and flow on each team. As it happens, sometimes you gain 4, 5, 6 members, and then maybe you lose 2 or 3, some to retirement, some don't work with the company anymore. So there's an ebb and flow to the relationships.
Hmm.
Yeah, as long as you're watering your yard, as long as you're taking care of business on
Yep.
your property, your team, you're taking ownership. I always tell people sometimes if people don't get the responses and the results that they want immediately with things, there is a tendency to start looking elsewhere already. It's like, okay, I thought I was going to join this group, and then all of a sudden
Mm.
I'd have so many referrals, I wouldn't know what to do with it. And, I've done one trust builder and I gave somebody else a referral and I haven't gotten anything yet. There's a little more work involved into it
Yeah.
than that.
Mhm.
But to me, the reality is if we're always looking to something else that we think is going to be easier, that's going
Hmm.
to be more robust, all we're doing is just procrastinating and moving from one place to the other place without really growing and developing as a person. So, I always tell people, stop watering your neighbor's yard, water your yard.
Mhm.
So you can be so happy with your yard and how green it is that all the other neighbors are looking at your yard and they want to be that. And that comes from commitment. So that's why I always tell new members when they join, I only have a contract for the first year when people are in
Mhm.
Caerusnet, because I want them to understand this is a journey and there's work to do and we develop and we're different people at the end of 1 year than we are when we started. So great advice. I appreciate you and everything you do on the Wednesday 8 o'clock group, plus all the ways you extend yourself out there and meet other Caerusnetters and are always just positive and that host in you. You're awesome, Trae Bohlen. Thanks for being the first guest on the Caerusnet podcast for 2024.
Thank you so much for having me. I did want to say one last thing. When I first came, I was very intimidated by other people that did what I do, and I have found those to be the best connections that I've made. So letting go of your fear or the thought of competition and just embracing who you are and who God made you to be.
That's a wonderful way to finish this show. Great message. Let that resonate with you, everybody. Thanks, Trae.
Bye.